I'm out here seeing things at Myles Standish Burying Ground, or Burial Ground, the oldest cemetery in America. And I gotta say, it's looking pretty cool. I just kind of came in through the side here. It says site of second meeting house, 1706 to 1785, with the ministers listed there. And that was erected in 1939, according to the bottom. And just to give you a sense of this place, it's pretty small, but pretty cool looking, with some seriously old stones. And a wooden fence, which is unusual for this area. Usually it's stone, but they wanted to create this sort of settler Puritan aesthetic, so they went with wood fence, sort of that rough hewn, like an old farm around here. So if you ever come to this place, there is no parking lot. I kind of looped around and found nothing. It's just in the middle of a neighborhood. So I ended up like a block west at some city building. Some brick building's got a bit of a parking lot, so not too bad. But I'm sure the oldest graves are essentially gone or recreated. So if we're talking about the settlers from Plymouth, their stones aren't going to be much to look at if they survived at all, but let's just take a look at one here. This one's really cool looking. Nice close-up on this. In memory of M. Peleg, S.P.R., maybe Sprague, who died December 28th, 1754, 38th year of his age something. So very cool skull. That's quite a winged skull, or what that is, but also a really cool lichen, just this mossy yellow lichen. Some rust around the edges, definitely a great looking stone. A lot of these are looking great, actually. George Partridge, who departed this life 1768 in his 78th year. Now that's more of a cherub, winged cherub. Gorgeous. As you can see, that original stone has been set inside some newer granite to protect it. Very good. Great restoration. Whereas this one looks just wholly original. In memory of Mr. Hannah, widow of Miss, it must be Mrs. Hannah, widow of Mr. George Rartrider. She died somehow. It's all kind of covered up, so that maybe bottom part has been restored. Great looking stuff, but old originals, you know, kind of looking like this. Totally unreadable if there was ever anything on it. So this is in the town of Duxbury, Mass, just north of Plymouth. Philip Chandler, 1764, winged skull, fantastic. Just a touch of lichen, nice slate. Here's an interesting restoration next to it, just fragments embedded into this newer kind of red stone. Mrs. Sarah, wife of Samuel Alden. So this is the wife of a Mayflower pilgrim, Alden. I think it's John Alden. Well, sorry, obviously that's Samuel Alden's wife, and this is Samuel over here. But I was saying the Mayflower pilgrim is John Alden, so this is his descendant here. I think, anyway. I don't know that much about Mayflower pilgrims, but Samuel Alden here died in 1781. Just a variety of great colors, greens, tans, mossy, all kinds of stuff. 1778, Priscilla Weston. I should get a closer look at these cherubs and such. Renewed 1851. This is the original stone behind it, I guess. Not sure what that's about. So they need to double that one up. Mary Peterson, widow of Mr. Isaac Peterson, 1763. Quite the face on there. Some kind of funky cherub. Mr. Eliphas Weston, 1762. Joshua, son of Eliphas, 1762. This one's got something on the back. Mrs. Deborah Seabury, something like that. It's a bit in the shadow. Every single stone here is interesting. In some fashion, it seems. Look at the faces on these things. Mr. Samuel Seabury, 1762. Getting a bit of wind here, too. We are on the coast, of course. It's windy. Mrs. Deborah, widow of Samuel Seabury, 1776. Great looking angels here. Stern face. This one just looks wild. This was worth coming to, I gotta say. I've never been here before. Wifewall? Or Wisewall? Seabury? 1768. There's another preserved one. Some like it. Wife of Peter Windsor, 1785. Gorgeous day, actually. It's in the 70s in the city, but down here I would say it's high 60s. This is Rebecca Sampson. There's another interesting face on the top. 1759. You can still see all the lines from the engraver to keep those rows straight, and some decorative motifs on the side like the spinning wheel. There's an interesting one just sort of tucked under this very tiny tree. Sarah Ripley, wife of Kimball Ripley, 1785. And again, a cherub or angel up there. Some embedded quartz on that one. Another interesting face. Mr. John Southworth, 1751, getting a little older here. Some of these carvings are just, I feel like I can't skip any. Mr. Benjamin Pryor. I don't know why the last name is lowercase. Check out that angel. 1766, getting older here. Again, the lines from the engraver are still visible. Mrs. Deborah, widow of Benjamin Pryor. Here it's capitalized. 1775. Jabez Pryor. 1757. Maybe a father. Interesting remnant of the face left. I don't know if I should hit every stone here, but I'm hitting a lot of them. Loorings. There's the urn and willow motif. It was the 19th century, so we're starting to see that. Benjamin Loring, the original behind it, with more of the memento memori, or memento mori. Remember, in remembrance of death, something like that. This one's looking rough here. Could have a double face, maybe it's twins or something. Definitely son of, so maybe a children's grave. So we got this cannon set over here. Let's go see what this is about. There's a whole building here. Cannons. Whole structure. Captain Myles Standish, it says. One of the passengers aboard the Mayflower arriving in Plymouth, 1620, living in Holland, came into contact with English Protestant dissenters. 1627, his second wife, Barbara. First wife died in 1621, received a land grant of 120 acres. Helped establish the town of Duxbury. Standish was a courageous yet sometimes brutal military commander who led expeditions against the native population, as well as against the French and even other English settlers. So this guy didn't discriminate. He'd shoot anybody. He died in 1656, buried in this burying ground. His grave, like most at the time, did not receive a carved headstone. Oral tradition passed down through generations held that his resting place was marked instead with 2 pyramid-shaped field stones. In 1889, this burying ground was being reclaimed and cleared. 2 stones matching the description were discovered. Dig commenced to verify. Initial findings inconclusive. Yeah, no kidding. 1891, another large dig. Skeleton of a man observed to have red and gray hair remaining on the skull was shown to be buried between 2 women. The skull was consistent with Standish and the location. Skeletons consistent with Standish's request to be buried between his daughters, Laura and daughter-in-law Mary. The evidence was enough to convince those participating in the exhumation, including several descendants, that they indeed found Myles Standish in 1930. Exhumed one final time, and his remains were placed in a copper box and hermetically sealed before being reinterred. The fieldstone enclosure you see before you was erected in 1893. At that time, 3 engraved stone markers were placed in the enclosure beside the 2 pyramid-shaped fieldstones, marking the graves of... Sorry, I lost my place. I was starting to look up. Standish and his daughters, yeah. Daughter-in-law. Castellated stone walls of the enclosure hold the 19th century cannons dating from 1853 and relocated from the Boston Navy Yard, loaned to the town by the U.S. Navy. So I guess this is Myles Standish's grave with his daughter and daughter-in-law. These old cannons, which have obviously been sandblasted and painted. And sure enough, that's what they've got now. Okay. Well, that's gonna have to suffice. That's the final word. 1738. Who is this? Benoni, Dr. Benoni Delano. Oh, that is the ancestor of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Look that up. There's other Delanos here. I'd read about that, and that obviously is one such. There aren't that many graves. John Partry. So right in front of Myles Standish's grave, you have the ancestor of FDR. Definitely an historic cemetery as far as those things go. The body of Anne Drew, wife to Samuel Drew. Interesting skull on top. Some old stones here. They're all old stones, it seems. Some I can't quite read. Robert Sanford, maybe? Yep. 1752. And I'm going to walk down here because there's another informational. Well, that's faded. This one's a little more readable here, in memory of Mr. Lydia. Or Mrs. Lydia, wife of Josiah Soule. 1763. I want to see what this little informational is about here. Another one interesting. Robert Sanford, 1774. Let's see what this info is. This is kind of more of an entrance, so welcome to the old burying ground. Myles Standish burying ground, oldest maintained cemetery in the U.S. First burials 1632. Headstones, Alden stone, the earliest surviving. I guess we may have already seen that. Has a winged death's head. I don't know if I saw that exact one. Ichabod Wiswall. Maybe I didn't. Relative isolation from Boston. Local headstone carvers living in the towns had to develop their own unique styles. Yeah. So yeah, Soule, S-O-U-L-E. We saw one of those stones. He was a carver. Nice. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not checking every last stone, so I might miss one or two significant stones, no question. Wadsworth, 1771. Frederick, son of Wadsworth. Nice quality winged angel, I guess. Holding up quite nicely. Hannah, daughter of Mr. Wadsworth. Again, lichen, nice angel. And Ichabod Wadsworth himself. Look at this. This is a nice one. Great looking carving on the top. 1771. Fantastic place. Definitely manageable, not too giant. Nice shade here. Pine trees. Jonathan Peterson, 1765. David Peterson, son of Jonathan. That's inset and restored. There's some at the edges I'm not going to bother with exactly. Back here at Standish and Delano. An older one in the front. So this must have just been totally overgrown in the 1800s when they reclaimed it. John Loring, 1753. George Soule, here's the carver. Nearby rest, so this was after the fact. There's a weeping willow on the top. Esther Soule, wife of John. A couple more informational plaques and just a few more stones to check out. Deacon William Brewster, 1723. Huldah Gould, wife of John Gould, Hull, 1750 something. Quite the intense winged skull on that. Maybe a closer look. It's something else. Joseph Brewster, 1674. It's an oldie. Little plot here in the corner. Abigail Alden, here we go, getting into the Aldens. Mayflower people, 1725. John Alden, 1697 in his 65th year, so born about 1638. And that's obviously restored in inset. Tripping over here, sorry. Almost knocked one down, good God. Be careful about walking backwards. Let me recenter here. Okay. Hannah Alden, wife to Colonel John Alden. John Alden, 1739. It's hard to tell who this might be children. John, son to John Alden, 1712, in his 3rd year maybe. Deborah. Now we're getting into descendants here. Priscilla, who died in Duxbury. John Alden, 1687, near 88 years, so born in 1599. So these are recreation stones from 1930 of the original Mayflower people. Not descendants, but the ancestors, the originals here. John Alden and wife Priscilla, with some slate stones from the 1830s, if you want to get a closer look. 1930s. So obviously these were made to look retro in the day. Let's see what the informational has to say. Yeah, it's talking about those stones. Alden Historic Site, which I might have already seen around here, unless that's in Plymouth proper. I'm about 5 miles north of Plymouth. You can read about Alden, a little loud here close to the road. You can read about Alden on the web. You don't need me to look at that. There's nothing too special in that. Thomas Southworth, 1740s. Jedediah Southworth, 1739. Elizabeth Walker, wife of Samuel Walker, 1787. Inset. M. Andrews, didn't say when, but an interesting winged creature, angel. I don't know if it's quite an angel or a cherub. It doesn't look like a baby, I just think it's an angel. And then this last plot over here in the center, this is really at the entrance from the main road. There's a little staircase here. Peterson, 1760. Interesting face. Let's check these two stones here. Ichabod Wadsworth, 1746. Other one's hard to read. And the last informational, welcome to the old burying ground. It's kind of similar to what we saw on the way in, talking about the neglect and it being overgrown. America's oldest maintained cemetery plaque, dedicated in 1977 as a bicentennial gift to the nation by the American Cemetery Association. Myles Standish Burying Ground, oldest U.S. sacred, cared for by the town of Duxbury, named for Myles Standish, military leader of the Plymouth colony, who was interred in October 1656. Nice. That was a nice little half hour in here. And just one little section left. Reverend Ichabod Wisball, 1700, age 63, so born in 1637. I like this Deacon John Wadsworth stone over here. This is plain and simple as can be. I'd like to see years on there, but that's pretty cool looking. These are a little, let's see, I can read that. Uriah Wadsworth, 1784, different coloring. Samuel Bradford of Duxbury. Another one where you can really see the lines from the engraver. First, check out that angel. Abigail, wife of Gamaliel Bradford. So we're talking descendants of William Bradford here. Samuel Bradford. Interesting carvings, interesting winged skull. 1714. So less than 100 years after the first settlings. That's probably a grandson of William Bradford, Gamaliel Bradford here. 1770s. It's interesting, people are putting feathers in here, like turkey feathers or something. Whatever they find around, I suppose, but it's just a little tiny stone. Mary Robinson. John Robinson's daughter. Site of First Church, 1632. First Minister Ralph Partridge. What a beautiful day. What a beautiful site. Fantastic. And of course, all to myself. Nobody here. Some Brewsters. Joseph Brewster, 1786. A bit cracked up there. Thomas Fraser, 1782. Interesting angel. And I think that's about it. I mean, there's a little row here, but nothing so different than what we've already seen, I guess. Captain Josiah Loring, 1781. Getting a bit of a glare on that one for some reason. Yeah. I think we've covered it here. John Sprague, 1739. That is about going to cover it. So that was fun. Did a little run through there at the Myles Standish burying ground.